Hey, this is Tom Calvin. Thanks for tuning in to Tomorrow's Legends.
In 2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this wonder twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as Tomorrow's Legends.
History, the previous frontier. These are the voyages of the timeship Wave Rider. Its mission to take a bunch of misfits back in time to mess things up for the better.
To boldly go where no tights-wearing hero has gone before.
And now, here are your hosts, the fleet-footed Flash and his hammer-swinging partner, Harley Quinn.
Welcome back, Legendaires. We are here to cover Season 5, Episode 14, the one where we're trapped on TV. I am the boldly spaceship-faring Flash.
I don't have a snappy intro. I'm a terrible Kirk. Harley Quinn.
I actually forgot to write that little bit there.
Hello, Legends.
Hello, Gideon. Oh, Gideon, what's happening tonight? We've got something we need to announce.
All personnel report to the bridge immediately.
Yes, because we have a very special guest on board with us tonight. Everyone, take a knee, tip your hats. The podcast overlord is with us. He is here on the Wave Rider with us. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. It is so good to be on with you folks. Always a blast listening to you and interacting in the Facebook group. Such a great community you guys have.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much. I mean, me and Jess have said it so many times on this show that you're one of the big reasons that we are even doing this, and we owe our podcast career a lot to you. And behind the scenes, you really helped us a lot kick off the show when we had a lot of questions. You were there for us. So it's always fun to have you here and just get to talk the stuff that, we all met on in Atlanta like so many years ago.
Yeah, it is. You know me, I've been podcasting a long time. I know how awesome it is to be able to connect with other like-minded, passionate fans. So glad I could play a small part in it. And it's been wonderful to, like I say, listen in to you two, having a lot of fun and interacting and talking back just like everybody does to my MP3 player. I can't believe you didn't talk about that Katie Lotz scene. But, that's just me. What can I say?
Exactly. You get mad at us when we miss out or something. Yeah.
This sounds oddly familiar. I'm having Arrow flashbacks.
Well, that's why they call you the Overlord, because you've been doing it for a long, long time, and we learned a lot from you. So it's always fun having you on.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a blast. I was just before we hit the record button, I was mentioning to these two awesome folks how shortly after the season started, I think I sent you guys a message saying, yeah, we'll have to, see when it's a good time and I'll come on. And then a week went by and 2 weeks went by. And then pretty soon it was almost the entire season. And I panicked and said, please let me come on.
Yes, he begged and groveled. No, he actually just kind of struck the hammer down and said, I am coming on this episode. Yes, Overlord. Yes, Overlord.
Well, we're glad to have you here.
Mm-hmm. And like you had said, you picked a great one because there was an Arrow reference in this, and this all started because of Arrow Squad. And it's a great episode for Katie Lotz. So, yeah, hopefully you got some, be in control of yourself. I know there's going to be a lot of Katie Lotz, but there's more to talk about, right?
Oh, yeah. No, there's always plenty of Katie love coming from me. But, yeah, when I heard that Arrow reference, I was like, the universe is just totally lining it up for us.
It has totally spoken. Exactly. All right, well, let's get into this episode. You want to kick us off with your impression and rating, Harley?
Sure. I'll go first. All right. Are y'all ready for this? I gave it 9.25. The one where Charlie clones Zari, because that's what it should have been called, right? I'm just kidding.
I think so.
I don't know.
Awesome. Why such a high rating? Holy.
This as bonkers as it was, I just love this episode. It was just a ton of fun for me. It was brilliant. It was cheesy, but like in the most fantastic way. I had a ton of fun with it. Plus, Zari 1.0 came back. So awesome.
Yes.
So awesome. I'm not sure what to do because now there's 2 Zaris and a Behrad. So I'm not really sure how that breaks down, but we can talk about that. Anyway, I love the whole episode. I mean, I was laughing and smiling the entire time. I just had such a good time with it. It was completely bonkers. It was completely bonkers. They like legitimately went off the rails, but it just worked so well for me. I don't know. I loved it. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I'm almost there with you. I'm giving it a 9 breaths I needed after Mick shows up as Khan. OMG, that I haven't laughed so hard in a long. That is as funny as the Nate's ass of steel moment. I laughed. Oh my God, Mick just played that part up. It was awesome. And like you said, another zany, crazy, wild Legends ride that hits all the comedic notes with a few hiccups and moments. But it was kind of confusing at times, not really explaining anything, leaving us with our heads scratching sometimes. But you know what? This one time, I didn't actually mind. It was just fun seeing all our characters get to play other roles and goofball it up for an episode. And I just want to talk about how they all did. That's all I care about this episode, is how much fun they had and how much fun they gave us in watching this episode. It even held up the second time through. The only thing is that an episode like this, it doesn't give a lot for deep discussion, and I think that's going to be okay. We're still going to have a lot to talk about, so let's just enjoy it for what it was, that it was just zany, fun, and I know Kevin's going to probably say it, a popcorn episode. That's exactly what this was, just pure joy. Did I take your thunder from you, Kevin? What did you think of this one?
No, I am very much in line with you folks. I also give it a 9. Awesome Katie Lott's costume changes.
And it begins.
Not quite that many, but we did see her in a few different outfits. And I kind of am including the new pink hair that she shared on social media, but that's for another podcast. This, it's funny because I think, as you folks know, if you've been in the Facebook group and the two of you from Conversations, I enjoy the crazy, zany, doesn't have to make sense kind of stuff. Maybe more than many folks. I know sometimes the two of you are a little hesitant on some things when it gets a little too off the rails, or there's not as much connectivity with what they're doing. But I was okay. When I saw they were going to be riffing on TV shows and, doing a lot of different stuff that way, I said, this is just going to be perfect Legends, as you said, what I refer to as a popcorn episode. You just sit back and you love the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's good. Well, that's 9s across the board, plus an extra quarter point from Harley. So I think overall a good episode. I can't wait to hear what our feedbackers say if everybody's on board this week.
Guess we'll see. I didn't preview the feedback at all, so.
It all came in today. I was actually worried. I was like, man, we've got no feedback for this awesome episode. And then this afternoon, ding, 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 it all started trickling in. I was like, okay. And we ended up getting quite a bit. So,
well, that's good.
All right. So where are you going to take us first, Harley? Where are we starting?
All right. So like you said, there's not a ton deep discussion to go through this. So I'm actually going to break this down to start with each of the shows where the legends were actually trapped. And then maybe we can talk about some of the Easter eggs or just like some of the homages and just how that went. And then I'll kind of have a section at the end where we can speculate on everything. So I wanted to start with the title. So the title is called The One, Where We're Trapped on TV. And it's such a classic Friends format for that title, which makes complete sense to me because the very first show we visit was the Friends ripoff, The Ultimate Buds. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was completely ridiculous, but I loved that they kind of kept that continuity, like the way that the show was titled and then the first show, quote show, that we're introduced to as Friends. So I thought that was pretty good and I found that enjoyable.
Were you a hardcore Friends fan? Did you watch the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay, because that's where I'm a little bit behind here. I did watch Friends here and there, but I wasn't on the bandwagon when it was out, so I didn't watch it all the way start to finish. So I will defer to a lot of your expertise in the Friends references tonight.
I mean, I don't know how much expertise I really need, but it was good. Yeah. I mean, it's a sitcom. Cool. It's cheesy, it's great, but I love Friends. It was a good one. It was one of the better ones. So.
It was. Well, and they did good. I mean, they having a few of the characters, and we'll come back to it, but I thought they did a good job. I mean, the apartment looked exactly like the one on Friends. I thought, did they borrow the set maybe? Because it was pretty darn close.
They definitely recreated it, but it was clear that was the set they were trying to recreate. So I appreciated that.
Funny. Awesome.
All right. So the first one I want to talk about, and I think I've nailed this reference, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't actually watch this show. The world that they're, quote, living in, where Mona and Gary are and all of the Fates and everybody else who's not trapped on TV. Was that supposed to be a reference to the man in the high castle? Because that's kind of what I'm going with. That's what it felt like to me.
Overlord, do you have anything to say on that one? Because I don't know the show either. I know of it, but I've never watched it.
Yeah, it's not a show I've watched aside from trailers here and there, but it definitely could be very much in that. I mean, to me, too, it's a lot like the George Orwell, the 1984 dystopian future kind of thing, too.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Which was
definitely
the first,
that similar.
Yeah, which is the kind of the first thing that I thought. And then as it went on, and then when they introduced, quote, High Castle Abbey, I was like, oh, I think they're going for the man in the high castle as the reference. So,
right.
And that's supposed to be where, like, isn't that the one where I think the Nazis won World War II? And
that's, alternate future, yeah.
Yeah, it's like an alternate future kind of deal. So, that's where I was pulling from.
Okay, see, and that actually sounds interesting. I might even want to check that out because I never made the connection for this TV show. And it's funny that you said that because for me, it was just the Fates deciding to recreate the world in this way, which I felt was very Nazi Germany feeling. And it just had that weird, crazy what if kind of scenario to us. Like, what if the Nazis won? This is where we would be. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. But I wasn't making any TV reference connection to it at all. I just thought this is the basis where the rest of the story is going to launch from. So.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think it's both. I mean, I definitely think that's what they're going for. They're going for that you don't have any choices, like totalitarian type of control. And so I felt like it was perfect to set it in like the man in the high castle kind of vibe. So
yeah, that was cool. It was fun. It was a neat setting. But I mean, they kick it off. The first character we see is Mona, which surprised me. Because I didn't expect to see her come back again. Like she just seems to be this now recurring character that's popping in and out. So and I recognized her voice too. Like, wait a sec, is? And then her face showed up. And, oh yeah, it is her. Why are they starting off with her? Like what does she have to do with the story that we're in right now? Like at the point of the season that we're in, what does she have to do with it? But they fit her in.
Yeah. I don't know if they just needed a straight character to like stick in there or an extra character since all of our legends had to be trapped on TV. But it made sense. I mean, she's supposed to be a writer. So I kind of liked that the opening scene was her like rewriting history in the historical sanitation department. I don't know if that's a straight pull from the man in the high castle or not, but it was quite amusing and believable to me where they're having to rewrite history because the Fates have changed everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, rewriting history so there's no rebellion or any ideas of rising up, that's kind of cool. But I'm going to dig into this point of what the Fates are doing a little bit later. I got a couple questions about it. But it was pretty neat idea to start from that, they're rewriting history and, they're rewriting as they go so that all through the points of man's history, every point of reference that was about rebelling or rising up or getting back or breaking the rules, they made sure to quell that so that there was no feeling in mankind going forward. They didn't have that part of their their genetics and their DNA going through the course of history. So I thought that was a cool idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, Kevin, I'm curious, what do you think of Mona? Now that we have you here, Mona's been kind of hit and miss for us on this show. What do you think?
I think Mona is wonderful in small doses.
Yes, it's a great way to put it.
Yeah, I think, the character, the actress does a great job, but I think when there were some earlier times with lots of Mona, it kind of didn't hit as well as just in little bits. So much like the both of you, when I saw her here, I'm like, oh, I haven't seen Mona in a while. And she worked out great paired off with Gary, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
In little bits, she's good to have.
Good. Yeah, good. That's a good way to put it.
I love her and Gary together. I don't know what it is about the two of them. When they first introduced them, when she was still the magical caretaker way back at the beginning of last season, I loved their dynamic. I love the two of them together. The actors have great chemistry, and I I didn't vibe as much with the Wolfie storyline, so I like it whenever they just kind of bring her back to just being like her goofy self and playing off of Gary. Like I really enjoy her playing that.
Yeah, and we had originally thought way back then that might be a good, girlfriend possibly for Gary. They match each other so well.
They do. Well, while we're on Gary, are you the two of you Watchmen fans?
No, I watched the movie. That was it. I haven't gotten into the TV series.
Well, okay, so I have this goofy note here because to me, as soon as and this may be from The Man in the High Castle too, I don't know, but it definitely felt like Watchmen to me, where Gary's like wearing the billboard and he's like, the world is all wrong. It just reminded me of Rorschach from the Watchmen comics or from the movie. You find out super spoilers for Watchmen, which is super old if you have not read it or you wish to. I'm about to spoil the crap out of it. But the person in the beginning who's wearing the world is ending or something like that ends up being the character called Rorschach. So it just
interesting.
It just made me laugh. It felt very, very much like that to me.
I just like Gary's hair. I thought that was awesome what they did with his hair.
That was pretty fantastic.
Yeah. All right, let's bring it back around to the friends, to Ultimate Buds.
Ultimate Buds. Oh man, the title just kills me. The play on the word buds here, just fantastic. Love it. But this show features Nate, Behrad, and Zari. So I tried to map it, and I was thinking Joey, Ross, and Monica, because Behrad and Zari are brother and sister, and Nate was the actor. So I felt Joey. I don't know. What do you
Joey
think?
for sure. For sure Nate was definitely Joey, but I wasn't sure if it was Chandler or Ross. But if you're going with the brother-sister thing, then that actually makes sense. Because Ross and Monica were the brother and sister, right? So
yeah, and they may not have been trying to go for a direct mapping. But anyway, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I love like the very beginning where Behrad like opens the door and he's like, I'm back. I love it when the writers go so meta with all these things, and they do this throughout this entire episode, and they just excel at doing all of this. I love it.
They are, and some of the stuff is so subtle. Like it seemed like it was in your face, but when he's saying I'm back, I was thinking, is that must be from a Friends episode. And that's why they had the laugh track and everything. But then after I read your notes, like, oh yeah, that actually makes sense. He was dead. He should be dead. And here he is back. But really clever. And I was actually very entertained by Behrad this episode. I never hated him. I didn't dislike him. He just never won me over. He didn't grab my fandom like some of the other characters. Like Zari, immediately, when they introduced Zari, I immediately liked her. Behrad just didn't have that effect on me. But this episode, he was really good. He was actually really entertaining. And if he's able to expand and play up his character like that, I think I can grow to like him better.
Yeah.
What about you there, Overlord, on Behrad?
Well, only because he takes or has taken time away from Zari naturally because of what happened in the story. And I'm also more of a Zari fan too.
Yeah.
So it's not in a negative way. It's just with limited time. When you have an ensemble show and limited time, everything has a big ripple effect. So, he's been fine. The actor and the character, okay, but I definitely would like to have more Zari on screen.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about maybe he truly is stepping into Ray's shoes now. Maybe he's going to replace that role. Not so much like the role of the character, but just the empty space of the actor. So that way they can keep as much Zari as we want, and he just takes over the time slot that Ray would have gotten in each episode.
Yeah. I don't know. That's an option. It's definitely different. I think Behrad was just hard for us because they had to write him as if he had always been there, which was difficult because he hadn't.
That was hard to accept, yeah. And it still is, actually, yeah.
Exactly.
But, I mean, do we want to talk about that right now? I mean, the fact that Zari has, or should we wait? I mean, Zari's been split in two, so we're complaining about not getting enough Zari. Now we could have double Zari, which is great.
Could be great, yeah.
Can we have Behrad and Zari going forward? Is that something that could happen?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't, like, on the one hand, I kind of don't see why not if they're going to just, like, rewrite everything and Charlie's just going to bring back whoever she wants to bring back. But I don't know that it actually makes sense to have two timelines that were distinct and separate all of a sudden like completely merged but with no ramifications. So I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll see what they do in the finale.
They've been rewriting the rules every week, so
Well,
I mean,
there's no rules.
Yeah, we'll have to see. All right, well, let's just go. Let's jump to your Zari point right now about her returning. Let's just jump to that point, and then we'll come back.
Sure, yeah. So Zari returns. The original Zari, which I was actually not expecting at all. So that was a very pleasant surprise. The totem like randomly activates. I don't know if that was her activating it or what it was, but she kind of comes out and takes over Zari, takes over her own body. So Zari 2.0 becomes Zari 1.0 again. But I don't know. It was kind of weird. I don't really know why it's working. I was just really happy that she was back.
Yeah, and actually, maybe it's good that we have you here, Overlord, because your vast sci-fi TV background and knowledge, maybe you can help us pick this apart, because I want to dive into that. It's speculation time. I got a few questions here. What activates the totem? Why does she come out and suddenly take over her body? Why isn't she caught in the TV world like everybody else is? How is she the only one that sees what's happening here? This is the stuff that I was scratching my head over. I was so happy. Yes, Zari's back. But why? What's going on here?
Well, from my point of view, and you know this from our discussions, and you just started to touch on it, actually, Jess. This is Legends. They don't have to follow the rules. They can make them up as they go. So the whys, and I don't mean this flippantly, but very honestly, they don't matter as much as what can we do that's going to be fun. So I think, and so I don't go myself for this show. I mean, I'm not doing this isn't like the Matrix where I'm trying to literally connect every strand. This is, that was fun. Why did the totem suddenly do it? I don't know, but let's see what it looks like. Can we bring two Zaris out of the TV? I don't know, but let's see what it looks like.
Right.
My mind doesn't go to that because you're right. I don't think there are hard and fast enough rules in the Legends universe for them to have to do that, especially now that we have the Fates and their ability to split timelines or to duplicate them or whatever. This is the perfect excuse for being able to say, basically it's the snow globe. Shake it all up and it's all new.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point, and I personally kind of think that's where they're going with it. I mean, Legends after season 1 quite firmly established whatever rules there were, we're throwing them out the window, and we're just going to kind of do whatever we want. And I think they've done that to varying degrees of success over the years. But by far, I think this episode was quite successful. So as to the why, I mean, my explanation of the why, if you would like an explanation, Flash, is that she was in the totem. She was encapsulated. She was protected. She's not part of this timeline. So she wasn't woven into the TV world. She just was living in the totem the whole time.
Yeah,
so she
the TV world isn't real, so the rules don't apply. So why not pop out there?
And could it be that the Fates don't even know about her?
Probably.
She's essentially a genie in a bottle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But they understood that Behrad didn't belong there, and they cut his cord short, earlier. So, I mean, I'm torn between, I really appreciate.
They recognized it, though, in that episode. And but does it mean that they did it because it wasn't right or anything, or just because they understood it? Like you said, they could look at the detail of the timeline and go, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be here. They don't, that was just an excuse. They were going to kill him no matter what happened at that point, I think, in that episode. So,
yeah, true.
It's, anytime I start to think very logically about some legend stuff, I just go, Bebo, okay? Then Bebo can exist here, then please, your logic doesn't apply.
I think we have to cut him. He just said he just said the worst word ever.
I had to work it in. I had to.
Yes.
No,
the B word.
This is. I'm torn here because I appreciate your perspective, Kevin. I wish I could watch a time travel sci-fi superhero show with your perspective of let's just sit back and have fun. But me and Jess got into this because we love time travel and we want to discuss it. We want to analyze what if and all those kind of questions, because that's what season 1 did so well, is examine that question. As
you know, though, the whole tone of the show shifted come season 2. I mean
right,
because it changed so much. I mean this isn't primer. This isn't something where you're going to have a college thesis on how the storylines intermix. Bringing up the B word. Once that came into play, it's like rule schmools. I mean, they don't apply. Let's what we do for fun. So and I don't mean it dismissively. I just mean they've kind of just confirmed through action that we'll find a way to have fun. Hand wave.
Yeah. I think it's just, I think for me and Harley Like That Fun is we still like to try to understand it and pick it apart and explain it. Like we kind of almost consider that our job on this show is let's see if we can explain how and why that happened.
If that's the case, then I'm looking forward to the Bebo-centric episode where you explain all of that and, how it worked and the physics.
No.
Okay, then. So there's my point.
Yeah. It happened. That's about it. Yeah.
As podcasters, you can hand wave a key part of the show. Then I guess the show can hand wave some logic when it comes to time travel.
Makes sense. I mean, because truly nobody knows, right? Nobody's figured out time travel unless someone comes back in time and visits us. We don't know that it exists.
No one that can confirm or deny exactly what the rules are. So we'll make them up as we go.
Exactly.
And that's what's so fun about it.
Oh dear. All right. Well, let's move on a little bit here. And I think what made me laugh a lot is that Zari at first, she's the only one that hears the whole laugh track. So she, because she's not been indoctrinated into these like TV shows, if you will. So she's like, what is that noise? Like, what, why are people laughing? And it just made me laugh because it just reminded me, like on sitcoms, like how unnatural laugh tracks are.
Yeah, exactly. And because if you think way back in TV land times, they originally put that in there because if you hear it, then you might naturally laugh yourself because you hear the other. Oh, I'm supposed to laugh at this joke. Okay, I better laugh. Haha. But it's so funny. It feels so unnatural. And there's a lot of new shows like Modern Family, which was one of my favorite sitcoms. There's no laugh track in that at all because they didn't need it. It was hilarious as it was. So interesting. Yeah. But it's funny because later in the episode, the camera swings around and they're talking to the audience in the studio audience.
I loved that.
So in the beginning of the episode, maybe they didn't acknowledge or see the studio audience. I don't know, but because, she kept wondering where's all that coming from, but she wasn't obviously looking out past the camera. So
yeah,
it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, I think that just goes to them just kind of breaking, the fourth wall and like pulling the curtain back a little bit. It's like, okay, in the beginning here, we're supposed to accept that it's just a TV program and they're acting as, accordingly, right? As if that's the only world they know. And so, that's why I liked when they went back to the set, they turn and they acknowledge that there's an audience and that there's a camera and they interact with it. And I loved that because you're not supposed to do that. So that's great.
Now, we already mentioned in our opening discussion, but Nate auditioning for Robin Hood on a show called Arrow was the Arrow reference. It was so funny because he comes in speaking with the accent and he's got a crossbow with him, and it was pretty fun. I really enjoyed Nate as Joey. I think he did a good job mocking that character up, and it was just fun to have a shout out to Arrow. Even though they're taking a dig at Arrow, it was still fun that they had a shout out to it, and the fact that they referenced him as Robin Hood is pretty funny.
Yep. Nope. Hey, if they can poke fun at crossovers, then they'll poke fun at individual shows.
Oh, absolutely. Got to make fun of yourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who was the boss lady that eventually comes that they're waiting to make dinner for, and she does show up? Are we supposed to know that actor or character? Is that someone I could not remember or place? Or is she brand new?
I don't know if she's brand new or not. She looked familiar, the actress did, but I couldn't place her in my mind. I don't know. I don't remember if she's someone we saw or not. I guess probably should look that up.
I was going to ask you, Jess, if you're more knowledgeable on Friends, much like Martin, I only saw a few episodes here or there. If that didn't match a Friends reference, then it was just, to me, it seemed like the TV trope of the boss coming over for dinner and all of the
Yeah.
and concern that happens with that. Kind of like when the in-laws come over, kind of deal.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think you're right on that point, because I unless it is her friend's reference to a specific episode, then that's probably most likely what it was.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there was at least one episode where where her boss or someone important, quote, has to come over and be impressed by her cooking, because the whole thing is that she's a chef. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But as far as that actual actress as a character on Legends, I didn't immediately place her. I'm usually quite good with those things, but then I didn't look.
Yeah,
it
I
up,
did.
But.
Okay, cool.
Excellent. Well, shall we move to the next one? This one's going to be quick because I don't watch Downton/High Castle Abbey. So I don't know any of the references, but the next show that we get stuck on or travel to, I guess, however you want to look at that, is High Castle Abbey, featuring Constantine, Astra, and Natalie, which was fun. I liked all of the British accents. That was cool.
Yeah, well, I just like how they open the door and smash the glass, so to speak, and step through it, and all of a sudden they're in brand new clothes and they're in the next TV show. That was kind of a cool transition.
Yeah.
I have to say here, I love John. He was so good as the butler. What a change for him. Completely clean shaved this time, no shadow at all. And his slick hair with the part down the side, and just seeing him as a servant, and he had no idea at this point. It was such a switch for him, and he played it so well.
He did. I love Matt Ryan. He's so good.
Yeah, that was the fun part of this whole thing. Meaning this segment was, seeing him just being a butler when we're used to him being such a wise ass and,
right?
and saying exactly what's on his mind, no matter what. And see him be proper and prim and talking and telling them about dinner times and so forth.
And obeying commands, yeah. So I'm curious, Kevin. I'm going to probably ask you this about a couple characters. Constantine, if you've listened to our show, he struggled in his introduction here, we felt, and it's only this season where he's really kind of fit in with the team. The writers finally found a way to write his magic to be part of the team, to really feel like another hero on this team. I'm curious what you have thought of him over the last couple of seasons, how he's fit on this show.
Well, I came into it with being a big fan of the Constantine show with him, so I was so excited when they were going to bring him in here. But as you said, it just wasn't a good fit early on. It just didn't fit with what they were doing. And again, that's when they had the cast. Just, there was so many people. It was tough to get any fluidity of some of that stuff. So yeah, it's been great to see him. It just reminds me how much I enjoyed him in his original show. But yeah, until this year, and things kind of calmed a bit, and the Astra and the Hell storyline kind of made some sense. Did things feel a little more fluid, natural? Not like, oh, here's the Constantine scene, just so he's there, rather than sense to have him in the show. I still don't think it's quite as natural as it could be, or but again, it's because I love him so much that I guess I'm kind of okay to put up with it. Yeah,
well, I think Harley, the way we described it, because Constantine himself, he was too dark from his show for Legends, and Legends was too light and goofy for him. So I think they half lightened and softened Constantine, and they half darkened and made Legends a little more edgier, and they've kind of met in the middle, and I feel it's working this season.
Definitely this season, it's working better than it did at any point in the previous two. I mean, I think because in season 3, it felt very much like Kevin just said, like, it's like, oh, hey, look, here's Constantine, and he had his couple of scenes sprinkled throughout the whole season. And it felt shoehorned in. I don't want to say forced. It didn't feel forced, but it definitely felt like shoehorned in. Like, oh, look, here's Constantine. Here's his season. He has his own look and feel. And it was very distinct from the rest of the show. And then they tried to lighten him up in season 4, I feel like way too much. And it just felt disjointed. And a lot of the stuff just didn't quite work well for me. I mean, some of it worked, but not as well as it could. Whereas I feel like this season, they really nailed it. And they darkened some of the storylines a little bit, But the way that they brought it all together with the Fate storyline, and with Astra, I don't know, whatever they did this season, just I feel like worked much better. That's not Constantine proper, but I love Matt Ryan and I love that character, and I specifically love him as that character. So like Kevin said, I am willing to put up with a whole heck of a lot.
And he's back next season, so that's a good thing. So he's here to stay.
Some of the folks I've seen who didn't watch him and in the original show he was in have very justifiably said, this doesn't fit, or this is clunky, or whatever phrase you want to use, just like you were saying there, Jess. It just, it wasn't like, and it's, as you said, though, a lot of it is the tone. Legends, as we've talked for the beginning of this whole podcast, it's goofy fun. That's not what Constantine was.
Definitely not.
I mean, this is a guy talking about hell and everything that goes along with it. So that's why with Astra here this season, having such a key part, this makes a lot more sense, at least.
I think so for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Well, while we're talking about John, what's your next point on him here, Jess?
Oh, right. Sorry. I got kind of lost in the conversation. Forgot I had some notes in front of me.
Keeping you on track.
Thank you. So what I thought was really interesting here is that even though he's a butler and he's kind of prim and proper and all worried about decorum, he can still access the dark arts. And he even kind of notes that he's kind of at war with himself, like, because he doesn't know who he is. So he's like, I'm always, seduced by this dark side and this black magic. And he's very ashamed of it and trying to hide it. And I liked that because it kind of took Constantine and like kind of turned him on his head. I feel like this is the other side of John. Like if he took him and like turned him inside out, like this is what you would get. So I felt that was very interesting. And also very convenient, but made sense that he, was still able to access all of his dark arts type of magic. So,
yeah, convenient because I was thinking, why can he still access the magic? Why wouldn't the fates have changed that so he can? If they're rewriting everybody's fate, why wouldn't they take his magic away from him? Is where I was questioning that. So yes, convenience for the story purposes, but like you were just saying, it was an interesting take because if you think about every story that we've ever seen with a butler in it, you don't know hardly anything about that butler story. And look how long it took for us to find out about Alfred in the Batman storyline. Like most butlers don't have a backstory; they don't have anything. So to see Constantine in a butler role, where normally we wouldn't know anything other than he's the most faithful servant, that in his own private life he's struggling with dark magic. He's toying in it and he's finding himself being drawn towards it. He, like you said, seduced by it. So I thought that's actually a little, even though we didn't get a lot of it, still a very interesting bit of a story ad for him that he is now a servant, but he, in his private time, he toys with the dark arts and he's struggling with it. And it, like you said, it's a good reversal of him where he's the dark magic user struggling with being a normal, nice guy. So it's kind of, so it's interesting. But again, it's why didn't the fates just get rid of that? That's where I was questioning it.
I mean, the only explanation I've got for that is that Charlie is the weaver. She's Clotho. So if she's in charge of weaving everybody and weaving their fates, I feel like she's the one that would either keep that intact or change that. And so she probably kept that intact as, I don't know, maybe unconsciously, maybe some sort of fail-safe, who knows? But fortunately for us, he still had it.
Yeah. So let's not brush over it here. Astra's real mom was here, Natalie, which we haven't really seen other than a couple of the flashbacks when John was explaining the story, what happened. Now, I want to ask, was that enough for Astra? Because it seems like she got to say goodbye. She got to have some time with her mom, which was all she wanted. And it seemed like they had a bit of a goodbye, and Astra almost seemed accepting of that. Is this the end of the Astra storyline in trying to save her mom? Now it's just going to be, let's save her and turn her around. Will she be redeemed? So that's what I wanted to pose to you guys. What you thought about that?
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this. On one hand, I mean, I definitely feel like it was Charlie's way of giving Astra time, of giving her the happy childhood she wanted and helping John out so that he could, quote, do right by her and see her have a happy childhood that he didn't ruin, But I do still feel kind of sad if that's ultimately the only interaction she kind of gets with her mom. But I feel like that would make sense at the same time. So I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with that. I could go either way. I don't know what they'll end up doing with it, but I guess we'll have to see.
I don't know. I just got the sense that was kind of closing that chapter. She seemed accepting of, I got some time with my mom, and my mom was okay with me leaving. She's proud of me. I'm moving on. And it seemed like closure to me. I don't know.
I mean, it may very well maybe. It would be a good way to wrap that up if they needed to.
Yeah, and I think it's closure myself, too, both for her and for John.
Yeah.
Because that's been his torment, has been what happened to Astra and wanting to do, as you said, do right by her.
Yeah.
To the point where in this story he was willing to just go back to the fake world to say, that's okay, I owe you that shot for you to be able to be with your mom. So, yeah, I think it's closure for both of them, very honestly. I think it lets them, I don't want to say drop, but it lets them move on from that storyline.
Yeah. Yeah, and that'll actually come back around again in a little bit. So let's move into Star Trip, because oh my God, I love it. Star Trip. It's perfect. What a perfect play on the title.
It was perfect. So this is the point that features Ava, Sarah, and much later McRory. So those are our three people. We have Sarah/Katie as Shatner Kirk. It was amazingly terrible, which was amazing. Like, let me just be clear. It was, I loved it. It was great. And then, of course, Ava is Spock, which was perfect because she's so logical. I was like, oh, of course you're Spock. Like, that's awesome.
It's almost a perfect fit. Yeah. No, Katie, she did such a great mockery. It was so bad, which made it so good. Yes. And you could tell that she was just having fun with it. I think there was a lot of smiles in there that were unintentional. She couldn't help herself from smiling from what she was doing. And I just loved it. I just loved watching her enjoy that. And Ava, she's great as she's always been all season long. And I know Kevin will highlight on this. I mean, they both look fantastic in their Star Trek uniforms. I want to ask you, have you caught your breath yet, Kevin?
The really fun part was seeing the promo photos, because yes, they both look great, and as you said, it's such a perfect match for personalities with the logic one and so forth, and then see it coming to life. Katie's Shatner-esque tendencies, and also, to have Jess doing a little Leonard Nimoy. I mean, come on, man. That was just gold, absolute gold.
It was. And you got a lot of Katie on screen, so you must have just been ear to ear smiling. Yep.
You know it. No doubt there.
New desktop wallpaper, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was funny, and it was so in character for the two of them. Both, just in the fun parts, and even when we get to some of the more serious emotional bits later on, it suits them so well.
Yeah. I think that was makeup for, because last week was not last week, 2 weeks ago was the girls episode with the frat boy running around with his clothes off all the time. So we got payback this week.
There you go. All right, so it takes like the entire episode, but Mick does finally show up. But oh man, once he returns with his like Fabio hair as the villain, it was everything he always wanted. He's a criminal and he has hair.
I laughed so hard. They actually called him Don, and
yes.
When I looked it up, it's spelled Dahn instead of Khan, Khn. When he came on screen as Don, I laughed so hard. That hair flick was priceless. The accent, the whole scene. He was the funniest part of the episode for me. And the fact that his daughter and her mom was also watching, I thought was just a funny little touch to have it in there, because they didn't recognize him in the role. But I loved it. I mean, it was such a small part, but he played it up so well. And again, like we were saying for Sarah and Ava, what a perfect spot for Mick. He got his life recreated exactly how he would want. A criminal of the universe.
Yes. I think of all the ones to be trapped and the way in which they were trapped, I feel like his was probably the most perfect, although Sarah and Ava are a close second.
Yeah, I felt bad when I saw some folks online who weren't Trek fans, so they didn't know.
Oh,
because this quote inside joke or fandom approach. I mean, right down to him, and some folks missed it because they were laughing so hard. Even talking about escaping, he's saying, "You're not going to escape my wrath."
yeah.
Oh, I totally missed that because I was laughing hard.
See, that's where I had to rewatch with the subtitles. You miss that or a lot of people miss that, and then. I mean, I can visualize the writing staff going, okay, how do we work the word wrath into what he has to say? Because it's just too perfect.
Too perfect.
I was reading an article because y'all know Mark Guggenheim directed this episode. It was his directorial debut. And he added this whole scene in there, like the way in which he wanted Mick to be Don/Khan, like that was all him. And so like he like gave him, because Dominic had apparently never seen Star Trek or seen The Wrath of Khan, and so he was kind of portraying Mark's portrayal of this whole scene and in recreating it, and I thought that was endlessly amusing, and it was pretty great.
It was. And the other part I like too is that they called them the Gromulans, which was pretty funny. And what surprised me, because I actually paused to look, I said, wait a sec, is that? It is. It's John, Astra, Zari, Behrad, and Nate, all dressed up as Klingons. So, I mean, how awesome is that they get to totally wear full-on Star Trek Klingon makeup? How much fun that would have been for them to get to do that.
Just, for those real hardcore Star Trek fans out there, they're not Klingons now, Martin. They're Romulans.
Gromulans, yeah.
They're, to take on Romulans, so they're not technically Klingons.
But they looked more like Klingons, though, physically.
Did kind of look like them, yeah, and they're more well-known to the casual fan. So it's a kind of an amalgamation, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because at first when they came on screen, and I'm like, oh, that's funny, and then I looked at it again, I literally did. It was a pause, rewind, going, wait a minute, that's actually each of them in full makeup.
Yes.
Head bump stuff and everything. God,
yeah.
It's just
so much fun. And Zari front and center. She actually looked like one of the Klingons from the Wrath, not the Wrath of Khan, but the couple of the Klingon movies. Like I was like, holy, she actually looks like, there was that one, maybe it was on Star Trek Next Generation, where they had the two sister Klingons that were part of a couple episodes. I can't remember their names, but though there was two Klingon sisters that were coming after the Enterprise, and she actually looked like one of them. Thought, wow, they did a really good job there.
and this is the thing that is so, just you really get to appreciate it from a viewership point of view. That whole, the Star Trek segment, all of the time. I mean, that was hours of makeup for each of them, and all of this just for a few minutes on screen.
Yeah. I would even bet that their part was less than a minute.
It wasn't very much time that they were there.
Yeah.
So it's, and they had hours in the makeup chair that morning for what was it, half dozen of them.
I know.
Totally.
How many of them were all in that makeup? Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. But did you notice this is one of the few scenes, I think it had to be some of the last ones shot or some of the first ones. I guess you could go about that either way. But it was one of the few scenes where John was scruffy, where Matt hadn't shaved.
Oh, okay. No.
Oh, okay. Not better than I'm still looking at Ava's unibrow and...
Yeah.
Well, oh my gosh. Now that was hilarious too. Y'all, we could talk about the makeup for hours. We should not, but we could. But I noticed it because it threw me off because they leave High Castle and immediately they're on this star trip. And all of a sudden he went from completely clean shaven to 5 o'clock shadow in the span of 2 minutes. And I was like, hold up. That's not quite right. But yeah.
Well, it's appropriate for the Cromulans. So I guess it's okay.
I guess it's okay.
Yeah. Now, I also laughed at because they also took some fun liberties too with mocking Star Trek. Because did you notice the boy crew were all in short shorts? on the bridge.
Yeah, that and the majority of them were red shirts too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. But I just love they're wearing super short shirts to show off their leg muscles, and I thought, oh, that's perfect. Just reverse everything. It's pretty fun.
And they were all androids, so that they couldn't really die or whatever.
Right.
Did you notice that?
Yeah. And then Katie's scream, "No!" He's just an android. Oh, and she drops him. And then the idea of the girl co-captains. I mean, we've never seen that in Star Trek before. Co-captains on the same ship, so that was kind of cool. Because the one android, he had something. What did he had one line about something? Oh, I really love having two captains or something.
Oh, he's two co-captains. It's an interesting power dynamic.
Yeah.
Activating the translator, powering up the cannons or whatever he says.
Now, the one thing that I thought was a huge missed opportunity here was not having Gideon be their ship's voice.
Yeah.
Because we all know every Star Trek iteration, the ship has a voice. And quite often it was the same lady voicing, Gene Roddenberry's wife. It was the lady voicing. They should have had Gideon here being the ship's voice. That would have been the icing on the cake.
Yep. Yeah. I agree with you on that one, definitely. That would have been cool. That would have been definitely another knee slapper moment.
Yeah.
It would have, yeah. Oh man. I did miss Gideon. Although last week we got her live and on screen, so that was always awesome.
Yes. Are you with us on those thoughts, Kevin, about having Gideon be more part of the crew like that?
Hey, I want to see the sirens come back, so definitely.
Yeah.
This whole episode really reminded me of that episode. That was Legends. I think that was Legends of Meow Meow.
Oh, yeah.
Just really reminded me of it. It's so funny.
Yep.
All right. So while all of this craziness is going on, there's a couple different cutscenes, but I feel like this one is kind of worth talking about. Because I thought it was really interesting. So they do this cutscene to, quote, Clotho Productions, which is our, if we hadn't figured it out, our nod that Charlie created all of this. And Gary and Mona discover they're trapped on TV, the whole thing. So what I liked is they have this whole script being typed out according to Charlie's little algorithm or whatever. It literally says Zari 1.0 says, and then has her lines. And I loved that. I love that they use that. I don't know if the writers picked it up from the fans or if we picked it up from them. I don't know. But whatever it was, I love that it was on screen. And
Yeah, they must be hearing the fans, asking for Zari 1.0 to come back. So who knows if that had anything to do with this.
Well, this was all
this happening,
written and produced months ago. So I don't.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think the Zari 1.0 probably got started relatively early enough that they would have been able to pick up on it.
Yeah.
Or maybe they started it. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't remember where I picked it up from. I know I've seen it on Twitter a lot, though.
So let's try clear up a bit of confusion here, because why could Mona see what was going on? Everyone else seemed to be caught up in the world, and Mona seemed to be the Neo of this world, the one who woke up, and she seemed to be able to see what was going on through the TV and knows that she has to help. So I'm wondering why. Is that because she was kind of a legend for a while, that she can also step away and be a hero, like they were all eventually able to break away from it?
I mean, they mentioned her by name in the beginning.
Yeah. That's what I thought triggered it, yes.
And she's like, did they just say my name? And then they mention Gary, and she's like, hold up. And she goes and gets Gary, and then it just starts this whole thing.
Okay.
She's like, because I think she's kind of trying to put two and two together of listening to everything they're saying and remembering everything that Gary always says, because she goes and gets him, and she's like, hey, I think you're right. And he's like, oh, I just thought I was crazy or something like that. And then they sit down and, they watch all the craziness ensue, so...
Mm-hmm. So the real world was where Mona and Gary were. That was the real world. It was only the legends that were trapped, and they were the actors on all the TV shows that everybody else in the real world watched. Because Charlie had said something about the legends were put in there to help. She didn't use the word brainwash, but I took it as brainwashing the rest of the world by watching their TV shows, indoctrinate. Yeah. So that was the only deal that she could make with her sisters to save the legends, was that she put them in these TV shows, and they won't know it, and the rest of the world can watch these shows, and everything will work out. Am I right? Is that a good nutshell explanation? Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. She stuck them on TV. And I mean, you notice in the background, like all the signs of watch TV, like, you know, you have this, and you've got TV or something like that. It was kind of funny. So that was definitely their way of brainwashing, indoctrinating, however you want to phrase that.
And eating mush
Yeah.
of different colors.
Yeah, exactly.
I wasn't sure if that was referencing anything. I was trying to think, what could they be pulling from with the mush?
Unless that's a feature in Man in the High Castle, I have no clue. Sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
No, I mean, the only thing that came to mind for me there is in The Matrix. When they're in the world,
They're sitting in that gel.
Yeah. Well, no, not sitting in the gel, but when they're in...
No, what they're eating.
When they're eating in the mess, they talk about that it's slop with proteins.
Oh, right. Right. When he woke up. Gotcha. Okay. Could be. Huh.
Yeah, that's a good catch. And yeah, I couldn't figure out the mush tie-in either, so I'm willing to go with that. All right.
All right.
You ready for Mr. Parker's cul-de-sac redux?
Let's move on to the friendly neighborhood.
Oh man, Mr. Parker is back. Except not exactly, I guess, in the way you would think. I don't know. I thought that this was interesting that they kind of all come together to end up on this TV show to just be kind of pushed back out to their respective places.
It's like it was the central hub or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But who was that guy that played Mr. Parker? Again, it's like the boss on the Friends episode. Was this guy somebody we know? Because I didn't recognize him.
He was Mr. Parker on Mr. Parker's cul-de-sac before Ray became Mr.
Before Ray. Oh, okay. I couldn't place him.
The real Mr. Parker, I guess, if you will.
Right. Cool. Okay, he did a great job. He was funny. He performed the part really well, and almost looked like he had been around for a while. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about his accent, but it just kills me. Okay, so a couple things. I like this line in particular. What makes us special is that we're just a bunch of misfits who are trying to make a difference. And so I always love it when they reiterate this point of who the legends are and what they're trying to do. And so I thought it was very fitting that Zari was trying to remind them who they are and that this was how she was doing it. You know, it's like, you know, you screw things up for the better, like that whole thing. So I love it when that always comes back around. I feel like they always find a very good, meaningful way to do that once a season. And I think this was our moment.
This was that moment. Yeah, the spaceship of misfit heroes. Yeah, it was nice. It was a cool callback to what, like you said, the way they're trying to build our team. This is what our team is. It's not Team Arrow. It's not Team Flash. We're a little bit different, and we're the island of misfit toys, basically. And you know, you have to love us with all our flaws.
Yes, exactly.
What's to say about us? I wonder. The Wonder Twins, eh?
Let's move on. I'd rather not dwell on that.
Well, Gary and Mona, I mean, they basically are the heroes. They're the ones that save the day by typing in the script that our legends remember everything. Because if they didn't do that, I think our legends could have been stuck for a while. So you got to give it up to Gary and Mona for typing in the script and making them remember. Because Zari wasn't really getting through fully. No,
and I don't think she was going to. I definitely, the only way was if either Charlie did it or if, like you said, Gary and Mona wrote it in. So it ended up working out. Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. That's like 2 episodes now. Gary's been kind of the hero, saving the team. Gary. Yay, Gary. I know. I love Gary. Well, exactly like Overlord said, Gary in the right dosage. Too much of them, and it's too much. Got to have just the right amount of them. True. It depends on how they use him, but yeah, he's been spectacular the last couple, but yeah. All right, so I want to talk about this really crazy thing that happens because I mean, Mr. Parker totally calls it out. He's like, so it kind of sounds like being stuck in a TV universe and suddenly remembering 2 different timelines is very confusing. And I'm like, yeah, it's super confusing, man. Welcome to my world. So I like that gets called out. And then I guess, so this is the point where Charlie, she sends them all back to like all their different respective shows, except she doesn't change their memories. I don't know if she can change them back now that they have them. So I was like, well, that's kind of odd. What's the point of going through this whole like song and dance thing to send them back to their shows if they still remember who they really are? Like, that's not going to last. It's the legends.
Yeah, they're gonna figure a way out of that for sure. Yeah, just the whole idea was strange. The fates deciding that having everyone watch TV shows to make them obedient and rewrite history so there's no rebellion. It's funny. Like when I step outside of the fun of the episode and think about that, I'm like, why couldn't they just rewrite history since they're the fates with the loom anyway? Why would they have to do this whole TV world matrix thing? If they're the fates, just change the world the way they want it so they're in total control.
Well, I think they were. They were, weren't they? With the, when we saw Mona initially, rewriting the history books, that's the true way that they were making everybody aware that it was just simple obedience and no individual thinking and so forth. The TV aspect is just where the legends ended up. It was, in other words, it was a piece of the puzzle that was supposed to be very docile, and it's only because of what happened mainly with Mona and all that she brought him to life that it was like this was just supposed to be one small piece of it. It wasn't the catalyst, I don't think, Martin. I don't think it was a key part. It just turned out to be that's where our characters were. Because, Mona even refers to it as, what was it, Fate's streaming service or whatever they were, it's just
yeah,
it's something they gave them in the evening to go with their mush, and it was supposed to be very passive and barely noticeable. It's only because they started to come out of it. And I think to answer your question about what was the point of sending them back to their shows is, I think that's when Charlie realized that she was losing control of this. She was trying to hide them so that they didn't get killed. And oh crap, they're now self-aware, if you will, or aware of the situation. But what I can still control is I can send you wherever I want in this world. So she did, hoping that by splitting them up, they wouldn't be able to do anything because she knows their true power is when they're all together. So I think that was a kind of like one of those last-ditch efforts of, I don't want my sisters to know where I put them or the fact that they're now self-aware again. So if I try to split them up again, maybe that'll be enough to break them.
Yeah, right. And put them back in their, in the roles that they originally wanted anyway. But is what, she's like, oh, I gave you, everything you wanted. Why can't you just be happy? And that whole thing. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a thought. I lost it. If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up again. Yeah. That's just listening to you guys tear it apart. That's good. No, I get it.
Cool. Okay. So anytime we get a chance to have musical scenes, I love it because I love this cast and most of them are very talented because they can sing and perform. And so I felt like it made total sense on the Mr. Parker world because that's where it's appropriate to just randomly burst into song. So it made sense to me. And I liked that many of them got to sing a little bit. So
it was very random though, like at very odd moments. I think the biggest one was when Astrid just starts singing and then John, I'm like, what? It just out of nowhere. It was so random this episode, their singing moments. No lead up to it.
I think it was also a situation of showing how much control Charlie did have. He said, okay, fine, you're going to try to break out. I'm going to make you sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to be uncomfortable? How about if I make you sing and then zap you into a different world? That'll show you who's in control.
Yeah.
Right.
Immediately got rid of the two that can't actually sing. Leaving the rest to perform, which was kind of funny.
And listen to Zari, even just in her silly little moment on Mr. Parker's show there, her voice just outperforms everybody. That lady can sing. Mm-hmm. Wow. She's a canary herself. It's just beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah.
All right. So our closing scene here, this is before everybody kind of gets canceled and maybe we can speculate on a few different things, but I loved this scene with John and Asha. So they return to High Castle and I guess sort of try to accept their fate, if you will. And so I just thought this was really sweet, and I thought it brought a lot of closure to their story that I think hopefully Constantine fans were relatively receptive to, because it kind of, I felt like, put a nice little bow on the end of their relationship, and it just sort of kind of tied off any animosity that they may have had towards one another, because he was ready to stay just to kind of make her happy and repay his debt, which is literally like all he's ever wanted ever since, he's been trying to win her back or get her back. So.
Yeah. And I we can dive into a little more deeper, because I got that coming back in our quote section. So I was going to let us listen to it, and then we can really dive into what that means for Constantine and what he's willing to sacrifice for. But yeah, I am with you. It was a really nice moment. And, I haven't been very happy with the Astra character all season, but this episode, she was okay. I didn't mind what they were doing with her. And it's only because of what John is trying to do for her. I understand his angle and where he's coming from to try to help her. And that's the part that made it meaningful to me. So
yeah,
we'll come back to that point for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, then we cancel the legends. Everybody's slowly making their way off the air, if you will. So let's talk about two Zaris first. What's going to happen here? Do you think they're going to keep two Zaris? Do you think one of them is going to go away? If so, which one is going to go away?
That's what I want to ask. What are they going to do with that? I mean, did you notice the one point when John said, "What about my Zari?"
Yes.
Right when Behrad said it, and so I was like, "Oh, okay, he's laying claim to." Okay, so what are they going to do though? I mean, they can't keep that up, having two Zaris, one of the two very different Zaris. Or what are they going to decide to do? If they're going to keep one, which one are they going to keep? I don't know. Let's debate which side do you think is going to swing. I know what we want.
Yeah, I was going to say, I honestly have no idea. I mean, I know what I want. I don't really know. I mean, I feel like because they've established that the timeline now is Zari 2.0's timeline, that it kind of has to be her. But then if they decide that Behrad shouldn't even be alive, then in any timeline, as he states, then, maybe Zari, maybe there's not as much of a place for Zari 2.0. I'm not really sure. So I'd rather see Zari 1.0 just because, I mean, Zari 2.0, I've gotten more used to her, but the original version of the character is definitely my favorite. So that's what I would prefer to see.
Now, it'll probably be in our feedback, so let's just mention it a little bit here. Zari and Nate versus Zari and Constantine. Obviously, the show, people are complaining that the show is just trying to hook her up with one of them. If it has to be one, which do we prefer? Are you okay with Zari and Nate? Because they had a super long kiss in this scene, which I thought was kind of funny because they're just kissing, and everyone's standing around watching them. I'm like, geez, even for the actors, that would have been awkward. But
probably.
I felt okay. I felt fine with Nate finally getting Zari 1.0 back. That it did have an edge of believability to me that they have fallen for each other. I don't know. What did you think?
I mean, I was buying into Zari and Nate when they established it last season. Eventually, at first it felt like the way that they first introduced it. I don't know, like it had like this slow burn, and then they did the whole like magical, I'm gonna make Zari be receptive to love, that I didn't quite care for. But then the way that they sort of treated through the rest of the season, like I kind of was fine with it, and it kind of come around to it by the end, and everything with like John and Zari this season just felt more like an outlet almost. It wasn't a relationship. I didn't feel like it was necessarily real feelings, although I do think that those actors have good chemistry together. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was fine with Zari and Nate if we end up with Zari and Nate.
Yeah, well, the CW, they're going to force one of them on us, right? They can't have a show without a relationship.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, how does this lead into our finale next week? Where are we going to go from here?
Epic showdown.
Yeah.
But how are they going to do it? You've got the two Fate sisters. Charlie's kind of stuck in the middle, and you've got our Legends team. Like what? The one Fate sister, obviously, she can go in and run amok, killing people. Atropos. We saw her do it in the dance club. She can just run around killing. So she's really the one to worry about. What is Lachesis? I mean, I don't really see a threat from her towards our team, essentially.
I kind of see her as more of a threat to Charlie.
Yeah.
Okay.
To get from a fan point of view, to have us worried, as you said, Martin. They've got the killer sister, if you will.
Yeah.
To create the concern for everyone. And then I think the other thing is that we're concerned about Charlie. How is Charlie going to come out of this? And I think that's where the other sister ends up in some way faced off with her. So it's two different components, is what my hunch is telling me, rather than the team against both of them or all three of them, if you kind of consider Charlie in there or not. But I think it comes down to now that the Legends have popped out of the TV world and are all, let's save the world, that's how they'll in some way do it.
Well, if it's just the two sisters, I mean, it's not like we can really have an all-out brawl. I mean, unless Atropos brings up a whole bunch of zombies again, and she brings out an army that way, then I can see it being an all-out fight. But if it's just the two sisters, it's going to be a different type of confrontation, and I'm wondering if it'll be like something, because Charlie's the weaver, so they can't really weave any new fates without her being involved. So that's what I'm trying to imagine. What can they do? How are they going to deal with this confrontation? I mean, you look at our team right now, they don't have the Wave Rider. Where's the Wave Rider? We don't know. And the last scene we seen, that they were in some type of warehouse, and all they did was walk away like they were exiting the building. So where are they? How are they going to get anywhere? These are the kind of the question. Because we don't know where they were, which kind of brings back, and it just popped in my head, so I'll go full circle now. I was going to ask you about where we left off last week, the big zombie apocalypse, and all our team went down. Everybody died, and they left us hanging on that moment. And this week, it doesn't really transition that well from it. It just suddenly, hey, they're in, Charlie brought them all back. They're in a TV world, blah, blah, blah. It's like they brushed over the fact that we had a lot of emotions to deal with from the way last week ended. And this week, it just completely went into zany craziness. So I was wondering what you guys thought of that transition, if there should have been a little bit more of a tie-in between the last week and this week.
I mean, I felt like it kind of worked for me because the alternative is that they're all dead. So, I mean, we all knew that Charlie had to do something, and that as they were using the loom, something was going to have to happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was kind of fine with it. The way that it ended up. I mean, it meant that they were all saved and they were all alive and well. So I don't know that. I mean, for me, that kind of worked. But
okay, well, I just because the way this episode started this week, it was a little confusing. Like what's going on? Yes, we're enjoying the entertainment, but it was a little confusing until they eventually figure it out, and it gets explained to us, a third of the way through the episode, what's really happening. So I was just thinking about that, like is there a bit of a break there that we're maybe losing? But it didn't matter because this episode was so funny and so entertaining that it didn't really matter. So then bringing it back to where this episode ended, where do they go from here? Because where's the Wave Rider? Where were they in this warehouse building? They're walking out to do what? How's it going to lead? Are the fates going to come after them? That's kind of, that's where I was thinking of speculation.
Honestly, I have no idea. Like, I don't even have any good theories. I mean, I assume, someone will have a key to the Wave Rider and it'll pop up as it usually does. So I don't know. But off the top of my head, I don't really have any good theories. I mean, Charlie's going to have to pick a side and do something. I mean, she's like their only hope. So I don't know.
Any ideas, Kevin?
No.
It was like, this is not, he doesn't like to speculate.
Yeah, no, only it's, as we said, since Legends has shown, it will just hit the big B button and make anything happen. They'll find some way that it's a showdown, but whether or not it's an easily defined pathway that makes sense, it's Legends, maybe not.
Then that's probably what to expect. Is they'll just jump right in, and here we are facing off with the Vates, and okay, that's cool. I mean,
the sisters will be, shaking their fist and saying, those damn rascal kids, they can't do this to us, and we challenge you to a showdown or something. I mean, yeah, I haven't given it much thought because in this show especially, it's not like they haven't telegraphed it.
Yeah.
See it.
And that's probably the best angle to take this from. Just wait and see what they do and just enjoy it. Just have some fun. All right, let's get into our quotes of the week.
Shape out an eagle.
All right, Harley, which one was your winning funny quote from last week?
All right, the winner was Mr. and Mrs. G.
I got the rings. We make an amazing team. We should have our own spin-off. Gideon and Gary having adventures, solving problems, and saving the world.
Brilliant song, Gary. You must teach it to me once you've managed to wrestle control of the Wave Rider from those pesky sisters.
I know how we can do that. We'll blow up the ship.
Or perhaps we'll do something just a smidge less suicidal.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Let's track down a courier so we can jump the rest of the legends here.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go to the lab and make those couriers ours.
Gary, you're making me blush.
It's
Gary totally. I would love to watch a spinoff of those two. That would be hilarious.
I would totally watch it.
All right, what do you got for us this week?
All right, the first one is called Captain's Log.
Space. The fatal frontier. These are the adventures of the USS Fate Rider.
Its mission? To seek out rebellious life forms and disobedient civilizations. And blow them up with lasers.
That made me think of what's the Star Trek mockery show that's out right now? The Orville. Kind of had a feeling like the Orville.
Oh yeah, I don't watch that at all, but yeah, it made me laugh a lot. So
Pretty good. And what's your second one for this week?
this one is called Servant.
Look, I actually think I know what happened. Look, I told Charlie to come up with a way to outsmart her sisters. Maybe hiding us on TV was that way.
Bloody Charlie. A butler. I feel violated.
That's some good concept.
Good old Johnny. Yep. Good stuff there.
All right. Well, what do you have for us for serious scenes, and what won last week?
Last week's winner was a Legends Roundtable.
You guys good?
Yeah, feeling a little better.
Wow, those yams. Audible, aren't they?
Look, guys, I know today was rough. I mean, you got shot in the head, for Pete's sake.
Did you have to bring that up?
And if I could, I'd spend every day like this, sitting around with my pals.
Oh.
Well, you can end every day anywhere you like with the loom of fate, mate. You know, after we best your sister, any one of us might be called to use the loom, and you got to ask the question what kind of temptations we'd have.
I'm actually pretty happy just flying through time with you guys. And I got my lady. I'm pretty happy.
Same.
I'd be a criminal again. Simple life.
You know, if Behrad were alive and we were together and happy, I don't know, I would use my talents to make the world a more inclusive, better place, I guess.
Well, I, for one, would throw a multi-continent rager.
Would you really, though, Jono?
I would, yeah.
There's nothing a little deeper, a little closer to your heart?
Well, you know, even after everything that's happened, I'd want to do right by Astra, you know? Make sure she was happy growing up in a big house and I could keep an eye on her.
Sure is nice to dream.
I'll drink to that. Cheers.
And there's the connection to this week's episode, actually, because that's all the realities that Charlie created for them.
It is, yes. That's exactly what she used as the basis of their TV shows.
Yeah. All right, so this week, my first one is called Colden Heart. Not Golden Heart, but Colden Heart.
Astra, look at me. What have I got to show for myself? 38 crap years of pain and broken promises. You want to know what my original sin was? It was you. Astra. I rail against the angels and the demons for being arrogant bastards, but I'm worse than the bloody lot of them. You know, I thought that I could use your innocent soul as a bargaining chip to save your mother. Bollocks. If you're happy here, then I will spend an eternity as ruddy Mr. Constantine trying to make it up to you and Natalie.
Is John Constantine really capable of such a selfless act?
Would it be acceptable to dine at 7:30, Lady Astra? Mrs. Hutchins is running a trifle late.
Perfectly acceptable, Mr. Constantine.
I think that is a major shift for Constantine. That really, well, maybe not a shift, but that really made him vulnerable. That opened him right up to the type of character that he is and what his whole basis for doing everything he did really was. Saving Astra. That's all he really cared about.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that scene. I thought it was good. It was good closure for them, I think.
Yeah, which is what you were touching on earlier, why I said it'll come back to us, because I think more so than anything, that, like I said, that really allowed us into John's inner world, and you're thinking, wow, like, okay, he has sacrificed so much of himself and his life to, help Astra and get back for everything that he screwed up, that he thinks he screwed up for her. He's trying to pay her back and fix it. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy. It is really, really just powerful stuff from him, which you don't really expect from the type of person he portrays himself to be. You don't expect this depth from him, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. Well,
that's the whole point. He tries to play it off like he doesn't care, but deep down, he's a softie.
Yeah. All right. My other one is called Co-Captains, and I think, Kevin, you'll appreciate this one.
Come on, we have to escape.
What's our course, Captains?
Sarah, wait. Let's think about this.
Wait, what's there to think about? We have to get back to the real world.
No, I know, okay? Just... In the real world, I saw you die, okay? And it was awful. And I just keep playing it over and over again in my head, okay? So, look, out there we lost. But in here, we always win, Sarah.
Come on, you're right. Okay, and that's why Charlie did all this. A crew that can't die, us beating the bad guys every time, it's what we asked for back there in the pub. But it doesn't exist. If a life is beautiful and terrible, all at the same time. But if we're only living part of it, then we're not living at all.
Out of here.
Oh man, the music for that one, just building, just driving the emotion home. It was awesome.
Yeah, there's been some great music last few
those
weeks.
Ladies, Kevin?
Oh, absolutely. For a show about crazy, kooky gang. They know how to hit the emotions. And yeah, stuff like that. That's and the way that the Ava-Lance relationship has developed and, prospered and everything else. That was just wonderful.
So I'm curious, which side of the fence are you on? Ava-Lance or Sarah and Nyssa?
They were each. They each occurred at a certain. It's like any of and I'm getting a little deep here, folks, but it's just like anyone else in their life. When you're on a journey, there are times when certain relationships are what you need at that time. So each of them is wonderful for what it was when it was. Ava-Lance, I don't think could have happened if Sarah didn't have a chance to be with Nyssa before, because she had to learn with all that she's gone through. From the League and dying so many times and everything else. So I think they're both beautiful in their own way.
And that is why you are the Overlord. You have spoken.
I have spoken. This is the way. Wrong podcast.
I love that you brought that in, though. Perfect. All right. Let's get to feedback.
Feedback.
What? You're leaving me hanging on that?
So sorry. I'm thrown off. I'm tired, too.
Planetary powers, activate!
All right. We are kicking it off with our friend Tails, all the way from Australia. And she says, "Hey, Flash and Harley. What a fun episode this week. I love the call-outs to all the different TV shows, particularly Star Trek. I was so happy to see Zari 1.0 back, even if it did mean we had to see Zari/Nate again. It was nice to see her being the one to get the Legends back together. I am surprisingly enjoying Mona this season. I think it was a good call by the writers to have her be there sporadically rather than every episode. I laughed so hard when I saw that Mick finally got to have the long hair that he so craved back when he swallowed the truth bug. I give this episode a 9 out of 10. Looking forward to next week, but also sad because it is the last one of the season. My hope is that the way they keep Zari split in two, let Zari 2.0 leave the Wave Rider with Behrad and keep Zari 1.0 on the ship. Can't wait for the podcast this week to hear what the two of you thought of this episode. Tails. Ooh, I like that idea. Keep both Zaris, Zari 1.0 and Behrad go home and happily ever after, and we get our Zari 1.0 back.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
It's a good idea. It's a very good idea, but we know Behrad is back next season, so maybe he's back long enough to say goodbye. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens.
I have no idea at this point. I guess we'll just find out.
All right. Well, thank you, Tails. As always, we're looking forward to next week as well. Now, this next one, I'm going to let you read this one, Harley. We are very excited because we got a brand new feedbacker in, and it's just always fun to get someone new on the show. So take her away. This one's from Kristen, the Smoking Canary.
And I particularly love how she spells smoking.
Yes.
Like Felicity
As in
Smoke.
Felicity Smoke. Yep.
All right, she says, "Hi, Flash, Harley, and all the Legendaries out there. I hope I'm not leaving this feedback too late, but I am the Smoking Canary, and I have been listening to your podcast for a while now, and I really enjoy it. So I've decided to write you feedback for Season 5, Episode 13, the one where we're trapped on TV."
So awesome.
I know. It's always nice to hear from new people, especially ones that have listened to us for a while.
Yes. Thanks for all the support, Smoking Canary.
Yeah. All right. I like this week's episode. It was entertaining and quite fun. Even though I usually love the silliness of a Legends episode, I thought this one needed a bit more action. It is the second to last episode of the season after all. I think the writers did a pretty good job in setting up the finale. I will at least for sure be tuning in to see what happens to our Legends. I feel like setting up the finale was the main purpose of this episode, and I hope that we get an amazing, action-packed, and silly finale. We got a semi-finale episode last week, and with only 14 episodes in the season, 2 finale-ish episodes are more than I could hope for.
She has a point. I mean, there wasn't a lot of actual fighting action in this one compared to last week. I think they spent all their fighting action last week, so yeah.
Yeah, we got some great scenes last week, so... All right, I noticed that the writers pulled the same stunt this season as they did back in season 2. The team loses to the season's team of big baddies who hold them captive and oblivious about who they really are. Then the legends rediscover who they are and win their enemies with a creative solution. I kind of like this format. It is something that makes legends special. Back in season 1, they kind of did the same thing when Rip returned the legends to 2016, just to bring them back for the last showdown with Savage. In seasons 3 and 4, they had the traditional finale, which I preferred less than the Legends lose, Legends strike back and win format.
Oh, I'll have to, interesting. I'll have to kind of revisit that myself, how each one ended. That's a good point.
Yeah, that is a really good point. I don't know that that's something I caught on to, but very good point nonetheless. But let me talk about the episode. So I love seeing Zari 1.0 back, and I hope that she is back for good. Her and Nate's reunion made me so happy. Hey, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
They are so cute together. I may be offending some people by saying this, but I don't care if they get rid of Zari 2.0. It's illogical to keep both Zaris, and I can't stand losing the original Zari again. Hear, hear. The Wave Rider needs her dry humor, sarcasm, being a badass STEM woman, and overall personality. That being said, I beg the showrunners keep Behrad. His character is just perfect for our show, and after Ray's exit, the Time Bros can't stand losing another member, and we can't stand losing the Time Bros moments. Not really positive.
With that, that's our first real high praise for Behrad from anybody, so that's cool to hear.
I really like the actor. I don't dislike his character, but I'm not like in love with his character. But I do really like that actor, so I'd be cool with keeping him around. She says, I'm not really positive that they will keep Behrad since he is supposed to be dead in every version of reality. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Anyways, but if the legends get possession over the loom, like I think they will, they can just weave him into existence. True. Sarah should also be dead, but there is no way that the writers would permanently kill off our captain. So by that logic, I can't see why we can't keep both Sarah and Behrad. Talking about Sarah's death, Ava's and Sarah's conversation about Sarah's death and how Sarah said that life is beautiful and terrible at the same time, and if we are only living a part of it, we are not living it at all, hit deep. To my surprise, Mona managed to be not annoying at all in this episode, and she and Gary made a pretty good team. True.
I think I like this canary.
I do too. I love how Charlie clearly cares deeply about the legends and put them each in a TV show where she thought they could be happy forever. One thing that I'm questioning about the dystopian 1984 reality is how having fun, colorful TV shows is helping the Fates control the masses. Wouldn't it be more effective to brainwash people into thinking that their gray reality is all there ever was, not giving them ideas that life could be better? But I guess that without the TV shows, we wouldn't have gotten the episode.
That's a valid point, yeah.
Yeah. A side note, as an Orwell fan, I was just waiting for someone to sneak in Big Brother is watching you during the dystopian reality scenes.
Yes.
Yes, I think...
Kind of, when Atropos showed up on screen, that kind of gave you that moment.
It did, and I mean, I think Man in the High Castle is extremely similar to 1984. Granted, I haven't watched it, but I think it's that whole dystopian future feel, so...
Yeah.
All right, we've got a theory. My theory for the finale is that the legends, with help from Charlie and the population of the dystopian reality, find an unpredictable and crazy plan to outsmart the Fates. A plan so crazy that only the legends could have thought it up.
Well, that's a good idea. The mass, because we kept seeing clips of all the various groups of people watching the TV shows, and they're all having a very similar reaction, cheering and whooping it up that the TV characters are breaking out of their entrapment. So maybe they will all wake up and they've got an entire, population of people, raging against them now. That's a good idea.
It is. We'll just have to see. I love the silliness of this episode. It had some pretty funny moments, such as the Best Buds scenes and Ava and Sarah and Star Trip scenes, Zari 1.0 being the only one not oblivious of their past, as the Legends was also pretty hilarious. When the Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood song started playing, I laughed out loud, and the sad feeling song and Sarah's facial expressions during it were hilarious. By the way, Tala and Cheyenne have beautiful voices. Yes, they do. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good episode. It was entertaining, but as I said before, I would have liked to see a bit more action. Fates be praised, the Smoking Canary.
So awesome, Smoking Canary. And just thank you for that great first email, and just thanks for reaching out. I'm glad you've been with us this whole time, and it's just great to hear from you. Your one point about them killing off Sarah, I think Overlord here would personally go on some type of rampage if that ever happened. Yeah, it's the captain of our show. Yeah, they couldn't do that. No way. All right, well, I decided to go with all our ladies first this week, so here comes our third feedback, and it's from Patty Spivot.
Hey, Flash and Harley, it is Patty Spivot calling in. Oh my gosh, so this episode was so fun. It totally helped me recover from last week. I'm okay now. Thank you for your concern. I loved how everybody's story was super happy and cool and fun, but also at the same time had all these hard choices within them, like having to choose for Astra between hanging out with her mom or leaving her, or like every single one had sort of a turning point in it, which I thought was really a neat way to do it. And there was a quote in there I hope you guys picked up on, because I absolutely loved it. It was, let me think now, it was something like how life can be beautiful and sad all at the same time, how it's and I've thought that forever. I love that kind of mantra for life. I loved Gary so much. He was hilarious. I wondered why he kept his memories though and nobody else did. Or did he, or was he just kind of a crazy person anyway? Or did he actually keep his memories and he was trying to tell everyone that the world was wrong? I couldn't quite decide how that went, but I loved his character. He was absolutely so comical. And Sarah's William Shatner made the whole episode for me. I howled. She was perfect. She was so very funny. Everyone mimicked the TV characters they were supposed to be so well. I was a Friends watcher, and those guys were perfect. Everything was so funny. I thought the biggest sort of change, I guess, was Constantine, because he goes from a ruffian to a super buttoned up butler. But I loved his storyline too, actually, where what he was willing to do for Astra at the end. It was just so big hearted and it was awesome. I love that part. And Martin got his Zari back. That was so fun. I can't believe they were both on the same show. It was a lot of fun to watch. I actually kind of prefer Zari too. She's just so funny. I just really get a kick out of her. Yeah. But it was neat to see them both, and I hope they stay kind of. I don't know how they're going to do that. And a question about how she even showed up. So does the totem kind of have a mind of its own? Because it sort of just decided on its own to let her out, or what happened there? I'd like to hear what you guys think, because she had all of her memories. Was it sort of trying to catalyze, that's the wrong word, but try to make it happen for them to bust out of TV prison and this whole world that has been created? Like the totem seemed to be the thing that started it all, and when Zari popped out of it, and how could that just happen? And what else? I wish we could have seen more of Mick. He was hilarious right at the end. That would have been fun to have him throughout, but he just had one little piece. So, what else? Yeah, no, I love this episode. Honestly, I know it was kind of not our normal storylines and stuff, but it might have been one of my all-time favorite episodes just because of the way they did it all, and I just really enjoyed all of the throwbacks to all the shows that I watch and have watched, and it was just so much fun to see them in these other characters, and it honestly looked to me like the actors were having a really good time with it too, which made it all the more enjoyable to watch. So anyways, that's me. I'll talk to you guys later. I hope next week is just as good, because I'm excited to see where they go now. This is coming all to a head with all the storylines, I think. So we've got a lot to do in the next few, and it should be pretty exciting. Anyways, okay, that's me. Bye, guys.
Boy, she had a lot to say this week.
Yeah.
So, see, I'm not the only one. She was questioning how the totem worked, and I think she kind of hit on something as a possible idea. Like the totem itself is like, because if you go back a couple seasons, we had a bunch of the different totems, and they're a separate power all to their own that I think the fates can't control. The fates can't hack that. The totems have nothing to do with lifelines or anything like that. So I think the fact that the totem was still in play is, and whether the totem itself knew something was not right or Zari inside could sense something was not right, but somehow that, like she said, like Patty Spit said, that was the initiator to everything coming undone, because somehow the totem is connected to the point of, wait a second, this isn't right, which is a cool idea. So I think that's a good way to answer that. Now, what about her question about Gary? Did Gary remember? Did he have all his memories? Because he kind of said like he did, and everybody just thinks I'm crazy, but the world is wrong. So it seems like he did remember everything. Now, why would that be?
I don't know. I don't know that he had all his memories, because he didn't recognize any of them on the TV either. So I don't know. Maybe it was just a feeling he had.
Just a feeling. So
yeah.
And again, it could be because him and Mona, like I said, they were both part of the legend. So there's a little bit of that they're maybe stronger than everyone else to be able to pull away. I don't know.
Right.
But he did. Yeah. Interesting. Cool. Well, thank you, Patty. Next up is Kerry Johnson, and he says, let's see if Kerry is back on board this week, because he hated last week.
He did.
He says, I'm giving this episode 10 bowls of green mush out of 10. Oh, look at that. There was no villain on screen. There wasn't one real fight scene. Still, I'm giving this episode a 10. I loved everything about it. I liked how each show that our heroes found themselves trapped in was actually shot genre specific. Ultimate Buzz looked exactly how you would expect a 90s sitcom to look. The same is true for High Castle Abbey, Star Trip, and Mr. Parker's Cul-de-sac. You could tell that the cast enjoyed changing things up. Mark Guggenheim did a masterful job of direction. I loved the bleak dystopian look of the world that the Fates created. In all the ways you can imagine the powers that be control a society, you could see it. The Fates controlled information, they struck down those in opposition, and they pacified the masses through a shared communal experience, television shows. Well, there you go. See, Kerry always explains things that we can't quite weave together. He's our fate, our third fate.
Yeah.
I don't really know how Gary realized the world was wrong. Ordinarily, Gary sticks out amongst our legends because he's so different. See, so there's more than one picking up on that. So based on that, it kind of makes sense that in a world created by the Fates, Gary would stick out in a similar way also. I thought pairing Mona and Gary together in the real world was a good idea. They work well together, and the fact that their unbridled optimism is what led to our legends getting their memories back was great. Ooh, I like that, unbridled optimism. I could go on and on about all the things I loved, but I won't. I'll just say this. I really enjoyed the theme of free will versus subjugation, and even when our legends were presented with all the things they thought they wanted, it wasn't what they needed. That theme was strongly captured when our legends all got their memories back. We see all those emotions come flooding back to them in that moment. Many of those memories are painful, sad even. And for a second, they did decide to go back to their safe lives back on television. But once their pseudo-reality set in, they all decided that getting back to the real world with all their pain and misery was the right thing to do. In many instances, Sarah's quote to Ava, "Life is beautiful and terrible all at the same time, but if we're only living part of it, then we're not living at all," could come off as a terrible cliche. But coming from Sarah, who has been through so much, and talking about the legends who have all been through all kinds of personal hells, that line just means more. And Katie Lotz nailed it. I'm so excited to see how this season ends. I can't wait for the finale. That's from Carrie. Awesome, well put words as always, Carrie.
Yes, and Katie definitely nailed that delivery. It was a line that had potential to be cheesy, but I think it's definitely not, partly because of her delivery and partly because it is just so true.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next up is Daryl Washington. What you have to say?
An episode worth the rewatch. I wasn't too sure about them bringing Mona back, but even she wasn't so bad this time around. So is seeing Zari and Nate together the price we have to pay to get Zari 1.0 back? Yeah, he hates Nate and Zari. I haven't missed an episode yet, but I think I must be missing something that makes the writers think we buy them as a couple. I actually do kind of buy them as a couple. Is there some level of romantic chemistry I just don't see? I hope the crew learns to appreciate how Charlie tried to help them. My favorite show was Star Trip, and Star Trip 2, The Wrath of Dawn will stand on the pedestal of great sequels. What was your favorite of the shows?
I'm with you, Daryl. The Star Trek part was my favorite by far because Star Trek's close to my heart too. So just watching them really make fun of it and have a good time with it was the best for me. How about you guys?
Ultimate Buds was pretty good because I really loved Friends, although Star Trek was excellent as well.
Overlord?
You have to ask.
Oh, yeah. Stupid me. What am I saying? Yeah.
we could have Katie sitting on a box for 20 minutes, and I'd consider that an awesomely entertaining scene.
Too fun. Well, if you have it up on your screen, Kevin, you could finish this off by reading Arcphase's email if you'd like to do that.
Sure. Charlie's deal with the other fates saved them, but she had to know that they'd figure out a way to escape and get out of their sitcoms. If not for Mona and Gary, they would have been stuck without their memories, too. It was also great to see original Zari return, and this time she is existing along with the other Zari. Mm-hmm. With everyone aware of the two timelines now, they don't need to spend long episodes explaining it to everyone, which I think was a good way to do it. I do wonder, however, who will be the Wind Totem Bearer? Will it be Zari 1.0, Behrad, or Zari 2.0?
Oh, good question.
Questions.
There's only one totem and three
people.
Would be interesting to actually see more of their sitcoms. Now I'm laughing thinking about it. Though to see what it would be like with the legends. I'm surprised no one wondered where Mick was. And why he didn't have his memories despite the script being rewritten for all of the legends to have their memory back. Imagine all the other things that Mick could have done in his role as Don. Also surprised why Constantine didn't try using magic to escape when they were all in Mr. Parker's. He kind of wanted to, but I think Astrid didn't want to burn everything down.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he thought about it.
He did. Kind of wished it was Ray playing Mr. Parker. I think a lot of us are right there with you.
Yes.
Yep, for sure. And it was an absolutely fun episode, even with some great singing by some of the actors, too.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to see what they will do in the finale to beat the fates. I wonder if Charlie will end up betraying her sisters again to help the legends win, or if she ends up sacrificing herself to help them. Until next week.
Huh. Good questions, Arcphase, and we have no answers.
I know. I'm wondering that too. I'm not sure I can figure out a way where Charlie ends up out of this alive.
Well, awesome feedback as always, guys. I loved hearing all of your ideas, and I'm glad everyone was on board. It was such a great episode. So next week, guys, big finale time. Hope to hear y'all come back for it, and this is how you send us feedback.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. That's spelled with one R. You can also reach us on Twitter at tomorrowslegends, also with one R. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
All right, that wraps us up for this week. One left. One episode, big finale left.
I can't believe we finally got there. It felt like for a while we were never going to come back, and now all of a sudden it's over.
Yeah, that's strange. And then we got a long summer off because we don't know when Legends is coming back. It always has a later schedule than the other shows. So
it does.
Are we going to wait till January, February again like we did this time?
Nothing on the CW is coming back until 2021. You all know that.
Okay.
Because they can't film.
That's true. Oh, yeah, so that's a good thing to think about. So it'll be a long off season for everybody.
Yes.
What about you, Overlord? What do you guys got on the go? Let's let this be your promo area. Where could people find you if they've enjoyed listening to you?
Well, if folks want to check out some of my podcasting, you can go over to tuningintoscifitv.com. We have several podcasts about genre shows and all, with some different co-hosts. And just up on Twitter, just search for Kevin Batchelder, and you should be able to find me there. Always enjoy talking about our genre shows.
Right. And Winona Earp, is that going on right now? What's the state of Winona Earp?
They shot half the season. The first 6 episodes are shot and being edited. The original plan was to air the full season this summer, but we're waiting for word from Sci-Fi whether they'll air what they have in the can and wait, like, Jess mentioned, since all shows are on hiatus, or if they'll wait until they can film it. Waiting for word from Sci-Fi.
Okay. So not 100% sure of if or when it's coming back kind of thing.
No, not yet.
Yeah. But it is still going, though, because I know you've helped that show gain some traction and some fans, and you've got a really great story behind that one. It's pretty cool to find out about.
Yep, it's a great community and really fun show. So, yep, hoping Sci-Fi sees the chance with not much new content on to maybe say, yeah, let's give them the 6 episodes now, because I think, like Jess said, so many things are going to be pushed off to 2021. Any new content and all will be wonderful.
It's a weird world.
Well, you guys, I mean, Mandalorian is due to come back in October because they've already finished filming and everything. So
they got the filming done, so that's wonderful. Yeah. Coming back in the fall.
So you'll all just have to join me on the Mandalore podcast then.
I will be there.
Awesome, guys. Well, Overlord, thank you so much for joining us. It's been fantastic having you back on the show.
Oh, totally a blast for me. And like I say, I really appreciate the hard work you both put in. I enjoy the podcast and the community too. So great fun if I can be a small part of one episode.
Awesome. We'll try to get you in again next season. Well, that is it for us, guys. We will see you next week on big finale time. This is The Flash signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.